Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining in the evening. I know that for some people it's usually family time and dinner time right now, but we're trying to find the sweet spot for not just South African viewers, but for international viewers as well. So welcome, Heather. Thank you for joining us. For everybody that's on the call that don't know me, my name is Carla Ralph, and I will be presenting this webinar today on how to prompt text to image AI tools, and we're going to be focusing on Adobe as Firefly today. So I'm just going to quit my video here a moment, and I just want to, there we go, and I'm going to make this nice and big. So I promise today's session is not going to be bored about just death by PowerPoint, but what I have done is I have put some great tips and tricks into this short little presentation, and I am going to make it available to everybody for download, and I will put it as a link in the comments at the end of the presentation. Please note that if you've got any kind of questions or anything, you're more than welcome just to mention what's happening and questions, and I will try and answer them as we go along. All right, so let's start here. So we're going to start off with trying to get the best kind of image from whatever AI tool it is that you are using that can do text to image. So think about this. If you can clearly visualize what it is that you are trying to create, so if you can see it in your mind's eye, and if you can describe it to a friend or a colleague or something along those lines, then you can create it. Remember, these AI tools are not there to take your job away. They are there to help you to be able to create the awesome content that you are creating and be your buddy. Right. So when you are doing this visualization and the description part of it, there are a couple important things that you need to just think about before you start prompting your AI. For example, what kind of image is it that you want? Must it be a photo? Must it be a graphic? Must it be a piece of art? What is the composition that you are looking for? Maybe you want a retro, a poster kind of effect, or maybe you want something that is futuristic. Okay, what exactly is it that you want to see in your image? So you've got to be able to describe it. All right, what is the look? So is it at sunset? Is it a sketch? What kind of look have you got, and what kind of art style? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just go through, and I've just created a couple of little bullet points. Like I said, I want to dive in and I actually want to show you some of this stuff instead of just having this PowerPoint presentation up. So if we look at some of the tips, remember to use natural, simple, and direct language, and use vivid subject descriptors. All right. The next thing is keywords are really important. So for example, I want something that's hyperrealism or photorealistic. So put these kind of keywords in that you are wanting, like, I want golden hour, or I want sunset, whatever it is, I want a wide shot, right? Then limit your key elements, the main element that is going to make up your image. So don't have more than 3 of these in your description. So I'm not going to say, let's say for example, I want a woman wearing a cloak that is then going to be talking to a guy that's walking down the street. Be specific about what it is that you want to do. And just remember, the most challenging part about AI is you you learning how to prompt it to get what it is that you want. Right. Then your image should have empathy, or so you need to be empathic. You've got to put emotions and mood into this. I want a optimistic looking woman that is sitting at her desk, kind of thing. And you have in Firefly, not to averse with all the other AIs out there, but you've got up to 175 words to describe exactly what it is that you want. And the trick is to separate the elements using commas. And I'm going to give you a little formula that we're going to use now when we're going to do this. Right? Then also remember that your word order matters. So for example, if I'm going to say I want a lion with swirling colors, I'm most probably going to get a result of a lion with the background being swirling colors, which would be a very different description if I said the lion composed of swirling colors and then name the colors that I want it to be. Right, so word order matters. And then Adobe's Firefly was trained on Adobe stock imagery, and Adobe stock has been around for many, many years. And of course, the contributors to Adobe stock, they have to put in keywords and key terms and descriptors in there. So you can use Adobe stock to be able to help you with the kind of prompts that you want. But you can also use it to be able to get the kind of style, and I'm going to talk about style references in a little bit. Okay, so, and there are different types of references that you can do. You can do one composition, or you could do style, and these can improve your kind of results. Right? And then Firefly understands key dates, right? So for example, if I say I want a 1920s poster image, then it knows about that. Besides the normal dates like Christmas and Halloween and Thanksgiving and Easter and all of that, it even recognizes things like countries and time periods and cities. So because it was trained on that based on the stock imagery, right? And then it also understands photographic styles. So do I want a cinematic look? Do I want to have a wide angle shot? Do I want it to be at golden hour? All of these little things that if you add it into your prompt while you are writing your prompt, then you will use less credits, whether it's with Adobe Firefly or any other text to image editors that are out there. So my next slide here is just a little example here of the Adobe stock, and you can see here that it is telling you specifically, there's a woman walking, we know that they're in Cape Town, we know that it's at Kirstenbosch Gardens, so that is why Adobe's Firefly can recognize people and places, right? Because this was a photo that was uploaded, if I go to the filter settings, you'll see there's no option here for an AI. So if I do the next one, all right, so this is an AI generated image. You can see that using Adobe Firefly, of course, Adobe stock. You can, of course, opt out whether you want AI or if you only want AI or you don't mind which ones you want, and then you can see the kind of prompts that they are putting in there. All right. So now for the exciting part. How do you structure your prompt? So remember, we're using natural language here. Okay, so the first part of this is the set. as the same as if you were going to film something. You need to have the set, you need to know what it's going to feel like, where is it staged, those kind of things. All right. So we've got the set, and I'm going to go into each one of these in a little bit more detail. All right. And I'm also going to give you an example. Then the next thing you're going to have is you need to have a subject. They don't have to be in this order, but these are the elements that you need to be able to get a good prompt. So we need a subject, we need the environment in which that subject is being placed, we need the kind of composition that we want it to be. And then if we want to use any style references, we can do that. And then all of this together is going to give us the image that we are looking for. So here are two examples. Right, so because I'm on the African continent, we always are looking for things that relate to all of our culture. All right, so here is the first example. The set is a photorealistic image. All right, otherwise I could have said a graphic or a art. Right. The next thing was the subject. So here I'm stating I'm looking for an African woman holding a perfume bottle, right? And then the environment is with flowers in the background, and then the composition is facing right. Okay, so you can see here that I've just color coded them. You don't have to have everything. They don't always have to be all together. So if we look in the second example here, you can see I've got some compositions slightly separated, and I've got in this particular one, I've said again, I want a photorealistic image, a full body is the shot. The woman with long red hair, wearing jeans and a red leather jacket, walking in the city at sunset. And then I also said, what she needs to be able to look at. So what I'm going to do now is I am just going to drill down into these little elements, the set, the characteristics of the subject, the environment, and I've just given you a brief summary. I know this is a little bit of an eyesore, but it's a nice little reference thing. You can either take a screen grab now if you want to, but I said the link will be shared with you as soon as I am finished presenting here. Right, so if we look at this, the set is going to be the content type. So is it a photo? Is it an art? Is it a graphic? The next thing is, what is the aspect ratio? Do I want a landscape image? Otherwise, it's going to generate just square images. Do I want it to be portrait, widescreen? So you're going to give it the set. Then we've got the characteristics. So be specific about the characteristics of your subject, right? Have a detailed description. Include things like color and shapes and general adjectives that you can use. And you will notice in mine, I separated them with commas. You can include things like emotion and mood. You can include things like action. What is she doing? Okay, she was walking, or she's engaging. What is it that she is or that subject is doing? Then in the environment, right, like I said, give clarity on the place, what time of day it is, is it a specific date, what is the weather like, what city is it in? Do I want it to be in Paris or in London, or do I want it to be in Cape Town or Johannesburg, right? What is the country? Any planetary details, is it in a forest? Is it on the beach? Anything relating to that will help you, instead of you just saying, I want a image of a woman walking. Then you could get anything, right? And you want to use the least amount of credits and get the best out of the prompt that you are giving it. Right, then we look at things like photographic terms. These could be things like shallow depth of field. I want an up close macro photography, full body. It must be a side profile. Maybe I want cyanotype. All of these things, cinematic, is it a 35 millimeter camera feel? All of these kind of things are things that you can add to your particular prompt. We're then going to look at the lighting, right? So these could be things like, oh, it must be studio light, low light, golden hour. What is the color and tone? Do I want a black and white image? Must it be cool? Must it be vibrant colors? And then any kind of effects that you wish to have. So these could be themes, it could be art styles, or techniques. I want it to be a watercolor painting effect. What kind of materials are you going to use? The concept effects, for example, line drawing or painting or watercolors. All of this adds to the output that it is that you're wanting. And sometimes we just go in there and we just prompt and we just type, but we don't take the time to be able to actually think about these. And then you've got style references, and I'm going to talk about this in like a few minutes. So these style references can be based on your composition, and I'm actually going to show you an example, or it can be based on a style reference that you want. And then finally, what variables do you want to use? Sorry, I've got this that is just sitting in the way, right? So variables are placed in square brackets, and these will give the objects directly behind it the kind of detail that you are looking for. So if we look at the variables, I'm going to just show you on the next slide here. All right, so the first one was my normal prompt. I wanted an ultra realistic gray and white kitten with a butterfly side view on its nose. All right, and that was the result that I got. When I went and I put in some variables, so I did exactly the same thing. So it's ultra realistic, gray and white kitten with, and then in the square brackets, blue, orange, and yellow butterfly. You can see that my results were very different. Right, so these can really help you to be able to determine what it is that you want. Right, the next thing I'm going to look at is the compositions, and then I promise I've only got 2 slides after the compositions, and then we're actually going to do it live, then we can see what's happening. Right, so if we look at a composition, so this is what I put in there, a photo of a man looking straight ahead, dressed business casual, looking professional, happy and optimistic. You can see I've given it some mood, some emotion, what he's wearing. Then the environment, I'm saying he's walking on the sidewalk in downtown New York on a sunny day. So these were the results, and I'll show you in Firefly you can actually save your results and save favorites as well. So what I've gone and done now is I'm going to go and add a style. Right, and this is a composition reference. All right, so it's going to look at the composition of the sample that I have provided, and this was the result that I received. So first of all, you can see that the guy's hair is longer. You can see in some instances he's got more of a casual jacket on, and very different to the original image that I had done. And the only thing I did was in Firefly I went and added this particular reference. Right, so let's look at the second one, which is a style reference. So again, I used the exact same query that I had used. Right, this time you can see I've gone and added a little style query, and I used the exact same image just to show you so we could compare apples with apples, and this was the result that I got. All right, so style, you can see the guy does have slightly longer hair. I can see that he's wearing a red jacket. He's even got a denim shirt on, and it looks very similar. So this is fantastic for when you, let's say you're doing a campaign and you've come up with like the perfect image, but now you need to be able to have different iterations of this. IBM did this in one of their campaigns recently. I think it was last year. It's the one that's got the very geometric shapes, right? So they created a prompt that was perfect for what they needed. They set that as a style reference. It was on animals, and then they just went and changed it every time. So they might have had a shark, and then they had a bird, and then they had maybe a horse or whatever. I can't remember the exact animals, but that is a way that you can get consistency. All right. The next thing I wanted to just mention to you is that Adobe's Firefly has got generative fill. So in this example, so the image on the left-hand side was a photorealistic African lady using a perfumed bottle, right? So you're not always going to get the same results. But I used generative fill in the browser, and I just took it from the square and I made it a portrait image, dragging it down, and this was the result that I got of that. So the from just below the shoulder all the way down to the ground, that was all AI generated. All right, so let's get away from the theory. What I am just going to do here is I'm just going to copy this little link as promised, and I'm just going to pop it into the chat. It is, I've made it a PDF, so it will just take you to the cloud and you can just download it and have access to it over there. Right, so let's go in here and have a look. So for those of you that have not been playing in Firefly, if you are a Creative Cloud user, you will have access to Firefly. And if you go to your desktop application and you just click on your profile, you will see here that it will tell you how many credits that you have left. Right, so again, it depends on the product. If you're using Express, you will have less credits. If you've got a single app, you will have less credits. If you're on an enterprise version, because of the company that you're working for, you will have more credits. And just to let you know that as of March, the credits system will adjust slightly, and that if I am generating an image, it's going to usually be 1 credit for every time I say generate, but for video, it will be, there is a higher weighting to the credits that are consumed. Right, so let's have a look in here. So I am in Firefly. This is I will pop the link in the chat. In the comments, if anybody wants to be able to play along, I will do that. Right, so firstly, if you go to your files here, this would be where all your history is. So if you haven't used Firefly for some time, here is all the iterations of those history that of all the things that I have gone and done. Also, here are all my favorites that I've gone and done, so I can always go back to a particular one that I had and then be able to reuse it or keep it and then just change it from there. Right. So I'm going to go home. I'm going to say an image, and here is where we're going to start prompting some of the things that we are looking for. So let's say, for example, we want a photorealistic. Okay, I want it to be maybe widescreen. right? So remember that is part of my set. Now I need to decide, what is it that I actually want to be able to generate. So let's say, for example, we're talking about AI here. So let's go and say we want a humanoid woman um, that is only showing part of the machinery, right? So that is my description. The environment, so where must this humanoid be? So let's say, for example, in the forest. Right? When must it be? So I want it to be at, let's say, the golden hour. And I'm also going to state here that I want it to be maybe some synth wave. And let's just say I want it to be, what else can we put in there? Let's say I want a wide angle shot. Right, so can you see I have gone and added quite a bit of text to my first prompt. So now I can go ahead and I can say generate. Before I do this, let me just tell you to some of the new changes. So not only do you have text to image, but you now have text to video that is available. This scene to image, that is where you can go and put 3D objects, and then you can text to 3D scene what it is that you want it to be. There's also some new things like translate videos, image to video. You've also got things like translation, and then of course Firefly is built into the likes of Photoshop. So the generative fill is not only available here in the browser, but it's available in Express, it's available in Photoshop. The text to image is in InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, Express. In the video in Premiere Pro, they've got the expand video in case your video clip is not long enough. So there's quite a lot of things that you can do. Right, so I'm just going to, sorry, it's supposed to be synth wave. Right, let's go and generate. So just give me a indication in the chat pod. Are you finding this interesting? Is this going to be helpful for you? Right, so I can see here that I have got some kind of images, maybe not exactly what it was that I was looking for, so maybe I need to tweak this a little bit. So maybe I'm going to say, let's maybe do a half human, part robot. Right? Maybe they are standing at the window looking over the river, and it is going to be vibrant colors. And maybe what I want to have in here is, let's just say, facing the camera. So So a question that I get asked quite a bit is, what about the quality of the images? There we go. That's a little bit better. I didn't say whether I wanted male or female. So these are quite good results. Can you see it crosses multiple ethnics? So it's not, there's a little bit of everything. If I hover over any particular image, I can of course save this as a favorite. Sorry, my pointer's not going to do it there. I can save it as a favorite. I can download it, so I could use it as a reference. And this little icon over here is going to allow me to be able to get a better quality of that. I can then also open it up in Photoshop for the web. For those of you that don't know but that are on iPhone, Adobe has recently launched Photoshop for the iPhone. Android is coming, so that's hot off the press. If I click on edit over here, I can now do a couple of little things. So I can do things like generate a video from this. I could do generative fill. So generative fill is great for things that you don't want in this particular image. So let's just use this one. Right, so I've got things like insert and remove. So maybe I don't want the pole on the side here. All right, I can then go and remove it. And I can then go and say, of course, you can adjust your brush size if you want to and your brush opacity. Maybe I'm going to get rid of this as well. I left a little piece here, but I'm just doing this like really roughly. And in the second prompt, you can see, let's just give it a minute. Let's see what we're getting. So now I can go and decide, what kind of results I like. Maybe I like this. Of course, I could use another little credit and go and clean this up. I didn't do it very well, right? So I'm going to say, I want to keep that, right? Now I can go and expand this. Remember, you can go and put in here, if I wanted this off the bat, I could have said, I need enough space for copy. Let me just go and expand this way. All right, so you could also decide, maybe I want widescreen, maybe portrait. You can actually go and decide, and let's go and generate that. You can also add things. So for example, if I've got the image of the woman and I needed to have a little bit of jewelry, I can go and include the jewelry here. Of course, this little piece that is sticking out here, that was my really bad selecting options that are available. So let's say, for example, I am happy with this. I do want to be able to keep this. All right, I can then choose to download this. Right, and if I go back to my Firefly now, if I go to my files, right, you can see the ones that I've just loaded. So let's say, for example, I like this one. Right, so I can choose the one that I like, and maybe I'm going to say half human, part robot. Maybe I want a woman this time, all right, standing by the window. And let's say, for example, this one we don't want facing the camera, but let's say, for example, at sunset or maybe sunrise. Okay, and we can go and do a couple of things here. So maybe I don't want it to be square, so I can come in here and say, you know what, I want it to be widescreen off the bat. Maybe I want it to be a photo. Here is where you can go and set the composition. So remember in the presentation that I showed you, the first one was the composition. So that one was the image still looked very much the same as what you had, but it took part of what I had taken away or added, whereas the style actually changed it more towards the image that I was working with. So I could come in here and I could then go and upload. So let's maybe do an upload image here. And let's go and use this as an example. Right? You can decide the intensity and the strength of how much you want it to be in with the sample that you've uploaded. You've got different types of effects here. So you could say, I want it to be a painting, or I want certain kinds of movement. So maybe I want it to look a little bit more fantasy looking over here. Maybe I've got some themes that you can go and look at. So maybe more 3D, maybe anime, cinematic, depending on what it is that you want. Maybe I want a little bit more digital art. So you can see there are a whole lot of things that you can do. You can change your colors and your tones that you want. You can actually go and adjust the lighting. So you can say, oh, I want studio lighting, or I want long exposure time, or whatever it is that you want. So let's be really out of the box here, and let's say surreal lighting. And then again, you've got your camera angles that you can go and use. So I'm going to leave that as it is, and I'm just going to go and see the kind of results that I'm going to get here. Let's just give it a moment. And there we go. I can see, depending on what it is that I want. Of course, if there are things there that I don't want, of course, I can go and remove them. So you can see, based on my reference, the robot now, or the humanoid, has now got long hair. She's facing the same direction. The colors and tones are very much the same as what I had before, but this time, of course, it is still abiding by some of the prompts that I had. All right, so I'm going to open it up to some questions now. So if anybody's got some questions that they would like to ask me, you're more than welcome to pop them into the comments, and I will try and answer them for you. Okay. Okay, I don't see any questions coming up. Right, so while we've just got a bit of time here, I'll just go into Adobe Stock here just to show you. If you go to the main stock, all right, so you can choose again. If you don't have stock, you can get some free ones from here. And just remember that there is an option to bundle Adobe Stock with your Creative Cloud. Just speak to the people that are supply you with your Creative Cloud license. They will be available to you. And you can get it under a one SKU. So let's have a look at something. So let's say, for example, I want a, let's do something artificial intelligence. Right, so here you can see it's coming up with some options that are available to you. And of course, if you go under the filters on the side, right, and you just scroll down a little bit, you can see here is that option whether to exclude or to include generative AI options. And normally if you hover over them, it normally will give you a little icon that will show you. So let's go and click on this. Right, so this was actually somebody's artwork. They didn't otherwise it would have said here generative AI, and you can see exactly what they used. So you could use this as a prompt. You could possibly use this as a reference to try and get something similar to what you want. In stock now, you've got this brand new features here, so you can actually do effects and all of that, or style, based on what it is that you want. So if you just click on one of these, all right, so here you've got that style reference or a composition. So now here I can go and decide what it is that I want. Artificial intelligence, right? And you can then choose like some of the style that you are looking for. So maybe I want something a little bit like this, and I can then generate. So you can see Adobe is trying to integrate it into everything that we had. All right, I see there's a question here from Meg. It says, are you allowed to use these images as your own online? So absolutely. When you use Adobe Firefly, it is for commercial use. And remember, any image that you have generated in here has what we call content credentials. So that means if there is a site, so for example, if you've gone and created something of your own in, let's say, Photoshop or whatever, and you've used a little bit of AI to create it, or you have gone and created your own thing and you want to make sure that your information is going with that particular file. So that means even if it is being used in a newspaper article or online or whatever it is, digitally, I mean, then you've got reference that it is your artwork. So there is transparency with all of this. So I want to write here content credentials. I do have a short little video on our YouTube channel about this. So let's just go in here. Right, so you can go and here you can see it will actually tell you about that particular image. So so I'm going to go and select one of those AI files, this one here. That was a video I generated today. Let's use this one. So here you can see it's got today's date and everything in here. It's telling you how it was created using Adobe's Firefly. And of course, if you make any edits or changes to this in Photoshop, it will then just track that as well. Right, so that is for content credentials. So a really great question there. Thanks, Megs, for asking. I'm sure some of the creatives out there would look. Okay, I see there's a question from Heather about vector images. So the vector element to Firefly is built into Illustrator. So depending on, and again, it's the type of prompts that you're going to create. In Illustrator, it's going to give you the option to either create an icon, to create a scene. You can fill a shape with specific text, and again, use the same prompting options depending on whatever it is that you're going to want to create. Just while I'm waiting for Illustrator to load, what we can do is we can go and say, let's do this one here. from image to, okay, let's just do this one, text to video. Right, so let's say here we've got a, oops, that's my Illustrator. So we've got a, let's see, something that I can use. Okay, woman walking in a forest wearing a hooded robe or cloak with her hair covered, mostly covered. Right, and she is, if I could spell correctly, that would be even better. And then we're going to say walking towards the camera. Right, so remember I've got my subject, I've got the environment. You know, I could have said that it is raining or whatever. I've got what she is wearing. And let's say, for example, the robe. Let me show you an example. Wearing a hooded robe. And let's say we'll put some in square brackets here. We're going to say red, blue and white. Close your brackets and let's generate. Remember, when you generate with video, you're going to use more credits. Sorry, this is the new plan that's coming out now. So it looks like I've used some of my credits up for the video already. But yeah, so I'll just show you the one that I did today. Where is the video? There we go, and I will just open it up. So I can now, so it was a theme of was robots, and she was walking in an African city, and that's the result that I got just from the prompt that I gave it. Okay, let's see any other questions. Oh, Heather's vector stuff. So remember here, if you've got any kind of images, let's just see, I've got one here. Sorry, I'm just looking for my little AI folder. There we go. And let's use this one. All right, so depending on the type of shapes that you've got, okay, so I'm going to just select two shapes. Right, you can fill your shapes. If you leave it blank, it is going to take based on what it is that it thinks that it is. So I'll show you an example of that. That is going to then show me, it's going to look more like a butterfly. Okay, we're starting to get some of the results now. Just give it a second. Okay, so here you can see I've got different types of iterations, and that was with no prompt whatsoever. Right, so let's move that out of the way. Okay, let's select them again, but let's be a little bit, generate the full. So I'm going to say here, paisley flowers. And if I click on the little cogwheel, I've got things here where I can go and say, okay, what's the strength to the shape that it must be? What detail? Do I have a reference that I could then use? Do I want specific types of effects? So maybe I want it to be, let's say, flat color. What colors are there that I want? So I can specify my own specific colors, or I can go in here and say, okay, I'm just going to choose vibrant colors, and let's just generate what that is. I do know that the Illustrator team is working on a lot of the stuff that is in here and trying to bring some more Gen AI stuff available. So what you can do is in your Creative Cloud desktop application, you've got beta apps. Right, so you can see that I've got Photoshop and Illustrator in beta, and you can go and test out the new features that they are wanting to create. So again, depending on what you want, you can then go and decide. So, okay, let's see any other questions. Okay, so there's one about the DPI for the video. I'm making the assumption that's what you're asking there, Lindsay. So, not too sure about that because the video stuff is quite new at the moment, but you can change your frame rate if need be. So you can say 24 frames or 29.7 or 60 frames. So that is something that it will change. You can also change your shot size and your camera angle, and then if you want specific motions, and then if you go to some of the advanced settings, they've got some seed stuff that you can do. But the things that are coming to Premiere that they showed like at Max is the ability, like in Photoshop, you can hover over a person. So let's say the person is walking and there's a street pole behind them. You can select the street pole and then use generative fill to be able to remove that. Right, if we want to use text to image to create a logo, and okay, so I understand now what you are asking. So if I just go here to my favorites, right, so let's say for example, I want this one. I'm just going to open it again. All right, so depending on the one that I like, maybe I like this particular one here. There is an option. I'm just trying to see why it's not showing it to me now. There is an option to upscale it. And normally, let's just see if it's available in these ones. Okay, it was here last week. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I was looking in the wrong place. If you look just above it, you can see it says upscale. All right, and that means that it's going to increase the resolution of the image. Of course, you might still have to go into Photoshop and just tweak it, because remember here, it's not saying specific DPI settings, but it will upscale the images in that side. Right. Right, so if there are no more questions, again, I would just like to thank each one of you for joining, especially in the evening. The recording will be made available, and you would be able to come back to the event under the past event, and you'd be able to pick it up there. Take a note of our YouTube channel. I'll post the link in the comments. We're often giving tips and tricks on across all of the Adobe applications, from Character Animator, Premiere, InDesign, whatever it is, and then maybe you would get some stuff there. So there are a couple there on the Gen AI. So thank you very much for joining. I hope that you got something out of this and that your prompting will help help you get the kind of results that you want. Thank you very much. I will just hang around for a few more minutes if anybody has any other questions. I'm just going to add these here. And I did put the prompt guide there for you. Right, so if there's nothing else from anybody else, I wish you a good evening and happy creating.